right, good evening. My name is Faith Reeves and I am your Students English 1 teacher here at UCHS. Welcome to room 211. Sorry that I'm not actually in it. I had a previous engagement, unfortunately cannot be here, but I wanted to make it just as awkward as possible, which is typically what I do in class. So I figured I'd film myself talking to an iPad. I'm sure you are much more beautiful than this iPad, but Coach Lewis will take really good care of you as well. Go Gators. That said, I want to start off with a statistic that is a pretty challenging one to face, and that is that 70% of 300 surveyed college instructors felt that students were unprepared to understand college-level reading and comprehending complex materials. Not something super positive to reflect on, but I often bring this up with my students at the beginning of the year just to let them know that we work really, really hard in high school to make sure that we are fully prepared for college. And what we're seeing across the country is that a lot of students aren't. That means that we have to work even harder. And I know that that is not something that sometimes a freshman in high school wants to hear about their English class. In fact, sometimes they feel like English, reading, writing, vocabulary, grammar, speaking and listening, it can feel like a weight that they are under. And I want this to feel like a liberating experience for them. So we work super hard together to make sure we're accomplishing that, and you are a huge part of that puzzle. So I thank you for your work. I take this very seriously. It is a privilege and honor, and I just want to give you a little bit of insight into what we're doing to make sure we're taking care of that. First, contact information. When you walk through the door at the entry, Coach Lewis probably gave you a slip of my contact information. If you can take that out and go ahead and input that into your cell phones if you haven't already. First, my cell phone number is 407-729-7259. Once again, my first name is Faith, last name is Reeves, R-E-A-V-E-S. And I will happily take any phone call or text message. Just to let you know, during the day, text message is probably the fastest way to reach me. Also, my email, which I am on my computer pretty much all day, is freeves, F-R-E-A-V-E-S, @uncommonhs.org. Actually, if you would not mind either sending me a text message or email or leaving a voicemail with your name, your student's name, I will happily give your student 5 bridge bucks for responsibility and thank you in advance for go ahead and opening those communication lines and interacting with me even though I'm not here. That said, to give you a little bit of teacher background, this is my 7th year in the classroom. 5 of those years has been here at UCHS, actually teaching English 1. I got a master's in education to do it, to be here today. I am the lead teacher of English 1, and I am also the 9th grade level lead. So if you have any overall questions about your students' work here at UCHS, please feel free to reach out at any time. And then lastly, at UCHS, I'm also the advisory coordinator. Advisory is, of course, the advisor is someone you work with very closely, and I just design what that looks like on a daily basis for your student. So any of these things, let me know how I can best support you and make them even better for your student. Lastly though, I just really love nerding out with your kids. I get to read some really beautiful pieces of writing with them and watch their heads explode as Toni Morrison gets them to consider white domination and how it plays a role in beauty standards and what role do we have in this world as we make a difference. It's a really incredible journey and it's my favorite part of my day. The English 1 schedule. I actually get to see your student more than any other teacher. So I teach for the traditional period during the day. That happens 5 days a week. But we also have what's called floating blocks. We have 2 floating blocks, and this is just an additional period at the end of the day. So that means I'm seeing them 7 times a week. That actually breaks down to a pretty consistent structure every week. So to let you know what you should be hearing about back at home, there is a writing cycle. We do 1 a week. Often it is an essay, and that usually takes 3 of those 7 periods. Sometimes it's a more creative writing project, might take 2 of those weeks. We also have a weekly vocabulary and multiple choice quiz. This typically happens on Thursdays, so you definitely want to see your child preparing for this those days leading up to it, even particularly on Wednesday evening. There is vocabulary involved, and there are MCs. Next, I have a weekly response to data lesson that usually follows this quiz. And what that means is I'll take a look at work from the previous week, and I'll go through and try to figure out exactly what are some of the errors that I'm seeing consistently in my student work, and I'll address those errors. So that way the following week, we made some growth. And we also often have seminars once or twice a week. This is very consistently a student favorite. It is basically a whole class conversation where they are in charge of leading the charge in their thinking, and I am there to coach them by asking extending questions and also just making sure they're considering all the angles. And lastly, we have what's called a close reading lesson, where we'll take a specific look at a smaller excerpt of text and really deep dive into that, considering what skills we're needing to analyze, and also just what fine-tuned pieces are at play from the author that we need to unpack ourselves. Prep work. Prep work is a huge part of a student's success. In fact, we have looked at our student success rates, and those students who are completing prep work every single day are the ones who are usually at the top in terms of GPA. They are the most prepared for their classes, so they're often doing the best in-class assignments, and it's coming from a lot of out-of-class work. That said, students do receive prep work every day from English 1. On Mondays, they actually receive the schedule for the entire week, and I have them fill it out in their planners on Monday. So you'll be able to look on Monday to see the work for Thursday. I do this so that if they're absent, they can still stay up to date. And it also makes it easier for you to check at home. English prep work should take about 15 minutes a night. If your student is consistently spending more time on English, please reach out to me. I know they have a lot to balance after school, and I don't want to take all of their time. But if they're putting their cell phones away, it should be doable in 15. Also, your accountability goes a really long way here. We know with some of our students, it is not enough to simply ask, like, did you do your prep work? Okay, good, moving on. They might not. So, let's go ahead and check. Ask to see their planners first thing. You'll see what they should be doing, and so that way you can investigate a little bit further. If it's reading, ask what they're reading about in those pages. If you can, read with them. That's awesome. If it's vocabulary, quiz them on their words. On Mondays, they typically make flashcards for the vocabulary words they're quizzed on Thursdays. So you can always quiz them with those. They have a sheet with all the definitions, so you can double check those more challenging words. And then if it's written work, see what they're writing about. They write some beautiful, thoughtful pieces. Some are even personal opinions in response to what we've been reading together. So if you can give them feedback, awesome. But if you also just see what they're up to, I'm sure that'll be interesting for you as well. Lastly, if you have any questions on anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I left about a minute of time here for you, hopefully, to send me that text or email or make that phone call. So please go ahead and do that. I will respond by tomorrow. And then lastly, just thank you so much for your support. I know that it's not easy, and I know that you have to have so many encouraging conversations with your student, and I appreciate the work that you're doing there. If there's anything that I can do on my end to better be an advocate or instructor, just support system for your student, please let me know. Thank you so much.